Hey, what's up? It's your girl Honey Love, and this is my beat from scratch. So I started producing music at the beginning of 2021, as soon as I got out of the military, because then I had time to go to school. I had time to just, work on myself and my craft. I love Ableton. It's so easy to just create a beat. I know my way around the DAW pretty much now, and it's just a lot easier because I started off with that and I've grown with it. All my mentors that I were working with, like Roland Clark, Antler Rock, and then even my school, that was like the first DAW they introduced us to. I left LA and I came to London, so now I've been resorted to producing on my couch. So all I use now is my keyboard, my laptop, so I load myself up with tons of samples. Also I don't have my speakers as well to hear the sound as clear as I used to, even though I don't miss having the complaints. But now I just use my JBL speaker and that's all I have. All right, so first off, I usually, it's my little setup here. I'll first start with the kick. So I usually go to my little instruments here where I have all different types of kicks, whether it's deep house, tech house, whatever you name, it's there. All right, so I usually just, compress it so then I can just loop her out. Makes it a lot easier instead of just placing it every, bar. So I let that loop a little bit until we can get a vibe. And then I'll find some hats, my fave hats that I love to use on pretty much everything because it just has the groove. It has, the groove. It's perfect. And then what's our other hats? Oh wait, that's the same one. And they're already set, but I like to bring them up just a little bit, just so I can hear it, and then I'll mix everything later. I also like to pan them a little bit to give each hat its space because everyone, needs to shine. So you got to give everyone their chance to shine. So I try to pan them out a little bit. And let's add in some snares. I have my snare group here that I love to use, and I'll just move around certain things to see what works. Okay, what's this pattern here? All right, so here with this pattern, I already had one set, but let's play around with it and see what we can come up with. All right, that's grooving a little bit. We're just gonna copy and paste to our second snare, which has more of a harder, snappier sound because I like to layer it to give it, more character and more color. Just take that, copy it down. And then as you hear, it's a little snappier. Then when I take it off, it's a little light. Then you add a little bit more umph. And we're going to bring that up a little bit. And bring it back into the mix. As for my bass, I like to use this lovely thing called Sting, which creates different patterns of basses. And from those patterns, I'll usually play around with it because it's not always accurate or it doesn't really always sound good. So you have to play around with the notes. But if you can just get a gist of what you kind of want to hear, I'm able to work that out. So let's play around with that. We have a snappy bass sound here, and let's see what we can get. And here I just play around, find different patterns that, flow. Also with Sting, just, for notes wise, you have to put a pitch on because if you don't have it, it'll be too low, so you're not able to really hear the notes. So I do a shift up just to bring it up, plus 12. Also with Sting, you have to add a minor scale because if you don't have it, your notes are going to be everywhere. Everything's going to be out of key. So always make sure to put a minor scale on. And right now we have it at G minor. Also with my basses, just to bring it to have it more warmth, I add a bit, it's a thing called a bit warmer here on Ableton. Ableton has amazing plugins that I love to use. And I pretty much use those plugins because they're just easy and accessible for me. And other plugins just be too much sometimes. But let's get into it. So now we have the bass in. All I usually do is I'll add a MIDI track, empty one, and then from here I'll record it into that MIDI track. And so as I'm recording, the notes will come out, and this is what we have now. And I usually just close this off because I won't use it again unless I want to change the bass. So now that we have our bass going, let's add in some more perks. We can add in some claps. And that one's a bit low, so we're going to double it up. And we'll work it from there. I like to group my claps as well, just so I can hear it without the mix in. All right, let's see. Let's bring this one up. Also, I like to add a bit warmer to my claps as well, just to warm them up a little bit. And we'll listen to it with the snare group to make sure there's nothing clashing and everything sounds, real tight and nice. Also, I like to add a little reverb to my snares as well, just to give it that, that airy feel so it's not too centered in the mix. So now that I pretty much have like a little groove going, then I can start adding in little effects here and there, and maybe some acapellas as well. So let's see what we can get into. So I usually will buy little samples online that I see, or like good friends of mine will send me sample packs. And so I'll have them literally all in these little folders here that I just work through. And I can literally sit there for hours doing, looking for sounds, and it'll take a lot longer than this process. But yeah, there's just so many sounds to go through, and sometimes I'll find something and I'm like, oh no, I like this better, and switch it out. But yeah, just mostly little sound banks that people send me, or I just buy online. Let's listen to this. All right, let's add in a ride to give it that boost that it needs. We have our kick in here. So with our kick here, sounds pretty good. So we'll keep it like that. Here we can play around with the frequencies and the res, whether we want it more acidy or not. You can play around with that. That's the cool thing about Ableton. It literally has every tool that you need to just play with the note right then and there, instead of using other things to do so. Oh, that sounds good. Let's bring that. All All right, so far we have laid down the groove pretty much, and now arrangement comes. So I just do like a quick arrangement where I just start from the one and just build out from there, and then eventually we'll finish it off. So we can see what we're missing and what can sound good to go in there while we're doing that. And one thing I do know, we're missing a synth, and the synth always, you know, brings everything together, and I'm a huge fan of synths as well. So let's play around. So let's play around here. I like to single out just my synth and bass just to see what sounds good and so I can hear everything in the elements that are really important. So right now we have this synth. It's a little hybrid with my reverb here. And I use Juno 106 for different synths, so we can play around with the sound. And I literally will sit here for hours going through sounds. That patch is ran out. Work with that one. So here I'll play with the frequencies just to see what's more acidy. I also like to use the Apego, I think that's how you pronounce it, because it gives it different notes that you wouldn't do on your own, and I can play around with to see what pops up. Let's see. Okay, we can work with that sound. So what I'll usually go in is, now we have our synth pattern. So I put like a MIDI chord in, and so I'll use my piano to play stuff out, but that was just to get the sound of what we wanted. So let's go in and start fresh. So the cool thing about Ableton, so I don't stress myself out, I can play a note without actually recording it, because how it is I feel like people get nervous. I know I do when I'm like seeing what the notes are doing, and I rather not see it at all. So the cool thing with Ableton is there's like this snap feature where I can just click this up here and it'll show me what I've played. And so I'll usually go in, see which parts were sounding pretty good, and then I'll just edit them here right then and there. So let's see. So that's pretty dope. We'll use that, and we'll just compress that as well and take off all the extras, and we'll work from this here. And we'll go ahead and loop it out. Okay, so we are in key, which is very important. So what I'm doing here is lowering the velocity of each note that's being played. So it gives it more of movement that I like to use with my synth. So then when I pan it out, it's like moving from each speaker to each speaker, which is pretty dope. And let's hear it. We can make them a little longer as well. And let's hear it in the mix. And we'll throw on a reverb as well, just to give it, you know, that airy sound. And here with Ableton as well, you know, I might as well be an Ableton rep. There's different sounds that you can have for your reverb. So whether it's in a hall, a church, real places, doesn't like a spring. It's really dope that you can just go around and like try to see what fits and what sounds good. Let's do bigger spaces. And also we'll throw on a bit warmer as well to make it a little bit warmer so it's not too low or like has some body to it in the mix. Now, I feel like we pretty much have a little body of like a 16 bar that we can work with. Usually I'll add in some FXs and try to build it out. And so let's try to see what, you know, FXs we can use right now. All right, so let's just place everything in the correct order. All right, so here we have our riser, which I love to use to transition into, you know, different parts of the song. And then we'll use a down riser to go into the drop. All right, so now that we have that, I like to have snares going into the drop of a song. So here we're going to work with some snare snipples that we have here. Usually I just play around with them and see what patterns work and what sounds good going into the drop. And as you see, let's hear the sound first on its own. So that's pretty cool. Then I'll go in and do a little bit more little creative stuff with it to give it that fast vibe that you usually hear when the drops are coming. So let's do that. Okay, let's see how that sounds. You may have to work with it a little bit more. Yeah, we definitely got to work with that. Let's see. Much better. All right, now usually I'll add a bit warmer as well. Okay, let's see how that sounds in the mix. Sounds pretty good. The most important thing ever is EQing. I feel with hats, your drums, your claps, to take out that low end so it doesn't crash with your kick and bass. Because like I said at the beginning, everyone deserves to shine. So we have to make room so everyone can shine and play their part. So we have a hat here. which is my fave hat to use because of the grooves, as stated before. But just to be on the safe side, to make sure it doesn't clash when we go to mix it, I'll add an EQ. My favorite EQ here in Ableton is the EQ8. So we'll throw that on there. Longer. And as you see, there's a little low end coming in. It's not too much, nothing crazy, but just to be safe, you want to get rid of it. So I'll take it all the way where the frequency is at 150, just to clean it up, because you definitely just want to be safe. So I usually just EQ everything for me at 150 hertz, because it pretty much takes out that extra low end that is not needed. And I'll do that with like my snares sometimes, just depends on how it's sitting in the mix as well, and my claps and any other hats or tops that I may use. So after that, pretty much have the vibe of the song, and then just later on we will add a few more things, and then to just do arrangement as well, which takes time because it'll probably take me 3 to 4 days to do arrangement for this, and that's what we have.